Hi there. Welcome back. So I keep recording tracks and I'm tweaking gear all of the time, and I thought I would just show you the latest iteration of what and how that last track was made. And there it is there. In fact, there's two, so you could probably go for the track and then read the next one, or there's the playlist or whatever it is. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I've got the modular here, I've got the push here, and I've got the Traktor Z1, and then the other part of this is just kind of going into the Ableton setup and having a quick look at that and seeing how that all kind of works. Just because if we're just looking at the push, I don't know, I've been trying to work with this sort of standalone, but in order to make it really kind of live performance worthy and work for me in terms of being able to make some kind of changes on the fly and other things, I've had a bit of a think around, you know, what this would look like as a part of the setup. And so let's talk about that, and let's kind of just go nuts and take it through. And this is probably going to be mega, and I'll make chapters for you to kind of jump to whatever part is relevant to you. So let's just get into it and go. So yes, let's start over here and talk about this, because with the whole setup, I've been really loving the Expert Sleepers ES10. So having the ES10 here, being able to pipe 8 things in and 8 things out over ADAT and into the push has been phenomenally awesome, because it just feels like a true kind of hybrid kind of feel. I'm able to send clock, I can send CV, I can create CV instruments, and then I can route the audio all the way back into here. And so the way I've been looking at modular space is these are kind of sound sources, and then I can just mix and do whatever the hell I want over in the push, and that's really fun. And I've done a couple of videos on that setup and how that works as well. The other funny thing is just recently kind of came across, I can't remember whose video it was, but they were talking about A cases and B cases, and I think technically this is my B case. And maybe while you're watching this, you can see me doing a bit of a kind of swap over of modules between this case and I guess what's called the A case, but I guess they're just kind of built as 2 separate instruments. Whereas the other case, which is an IntelliGel 7U case, that's really kind of like a standalone groove box. And I was using that over here with this and linking them, but this just feels more fun in a way. And then that other case, as you're kind of watching it, changing modules, that case works more standalone. So pulling out the blue box mixer and having that inside that just kind of all works really, really well. So this here feels for me like it kind of fits. But the missing part was in the push, there was always this kind of thing of, oh shit, I got to change to the right track and then make sure the right instrument's set, or, you know, build macros for everything so that they're easy to access as I kind of go through. And I found I was really kind of limited to the performance component, because if you've been following the channel for a while and seeing the things that I make and or know anything about kind of Abraiojos, is everything is improvised, recorded on on the spot. So both visuals and audio. My kind of ethos and approach to creativity is I want to just sit down and want to record something. I don't want to sit in a DAW and meticulously edit tracks, or even, you know, record multiple stems and then doing the mix. It's like, how do I set up an environment where I've got control over everything that I need to be able to just record a stereo track. And that's visuals and audio at the same time. So that's where my kind of base conceptual gear process comes from. So working here inside the Push, that was the one thing that was really kind of hard. I mean, I've had different MIDI controllers connected to it. I've had Novation XL, whatever that thing's called, and that's the version 1, and you know that works okay because you know you've got 8 tracks and you can kind of work with that. But I've always been fascinated by the DJ workflow, of this idea of having, you know, an EQ kind of set up, maybe, you know, the DJ filter there, having a crossfader, which is, it is just here, I promise there's a crossfader just here. And yes, so that, you know, DJs are amazing kind of performers, bouncing around behind the desks and, you know, doing all these things and mixing and twiddling. And so I went on a search for a DJ style MIDI controller that was kind of compact enough. The Z1 Mark I, the first version of it, was kind of okay. It was all right, but you know, like we've just had end of year sales, and for the price of trying to find a used one of those versus this, and then, you know, thinking about resale value and whatever else, I managed to get a really good deal on one of these. End of year sales, very good. And look, this is how new it is. It's still got the thing, and maybe, oh, I wouldn't, no, I won't. Maybe, no, I won't. And so the idea was, how can I build an Ableton Live set or a set on Push that works with this? And big fan of EasyBot, big fan of Femto, and they've done a couple of long videos, Femto talking about the Push kind of setup, but then also the way EasyBot works with the Octatrack and has that idea of, you know, one processing which is the drums and one processing which is the melodic kind of stuff, and then using the Octatrack crossfader between them to be able to do different things with both. And so that felt like the kind of the idea. And I remember even seeing when Push came out originally, that someone was talking about taking the Novation XL and turning it on its side, then you'd have like 8 crossfaders and you could build whatever you want. But no, I just wanted 2 channels to be able to, you know, have something at a higher level than going into each individual track. And so let's have a look and see how I've kind of put this together and built this. So the basic idea is just kind of some groups. I've got a drum group here, and inside that drum group, I've only just got one track, which is got a drum rack in it, and it's got a couple of things. This is just enough for us to kind of talk about today. And because this is still fledgling, I'm still got a few things to work out. So it's probably a few questions that I can kind of ask, because we'll get there. Still working this out. It's still a work in progress, but it's a viable prototype at the moment, the way that it's kind of coming together. So one track, which is my drums, and here I've got the drum rack inside that, can build up some sounds and have that sitting inside there. And this kind of makes it really simple because I find that I'm able to actually kind of program stuff on the fly. So put in beats, turn beats on and off. And then also having the XY grid for a couple of things, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so one track is the drum rack, and is the drums at group, and I've got a drum rack inside that as one. I've got one other track in here, which is my sidechain source. So this track here has just got a really kind of simple clicky sound going on, and I'm using this as my sidechain source, and this is set up so that the MIDI from my kick drum down here comes into this channel, and so whenever my kick drum goes, this triggers and drives the compressor that I've got in the second group channel. We'll get there, we'll get there. But the idea of that was, instead of having like a 4/4 shaper or LFO or something like that doing my sidechain, is because I really like either having like a single kick drum or just kind of putting in something random and kind of making a bit of a tribal feel, or dropping into like a 4/4. I needed it to be a reflection of whatever my kick drum's doing. And the other thing is because my kick drum, like I really like long tails, and I've got the rumble going on and all of those sorts of things, I wanted my sidechain source to be reasonably short, so when it ducks, it's only doing a small duck at any particular point, and we'll look at that as we go. All right, so then this means that it's only the MIDI that's driving the sidechain source, and that means I can have as long of a kick as I kind of want to get those really big crazy crazies. Okay. And we'll get to the rumble and all of those things, other things in a minute. Okay, so then second group channel has all the synths. And this is where I'm routing everything from the modular, which is just here, coming in, and you know, I'm kind of getting up to date with my labeling of tracks, but anyway, it's working at the moment. So let's have a look and see what I've got on each of the group channels. On each of the group channels, I've got a DJ filter, I've got a compressor, which is, well, on this one, which is doing my side chaining for the kick and giving a bit of room for that. And then I've got another kind of one knob effect, and we'll have a look at those inside Ableton in a second, because that'll kind of make sense. So channel EQ, a DJ filter, I've got a one button kind of glitch thing that I've made, and a compressor and that. And then when we come over to here, it's very, very similar. Why don't you want to do that? Why don't you want to do that? Turn the jog wheel to move. Why? I don't want to move one drums. It's not going to show me. Why? Okay, let's jump over to here. Rightio. So here I've got a channel EQ. Now, this isn't kind of, this is a bit frustrating for me, because I really wanted to use the EQ3, but the way that the MIDI controller is set up is these knobs have actually got a center detent on them. So when you kind of hit the middle, it locks in. And that's kind of problematic, because when we look at like an EQ3, let me find my cursor wherever it is. When we look at an EQ3, there's an issue, there's the problem. And that is, see how it's got 6 dB of gain, but then it's got whatever that is all the way down to infinity of attenuation. And that ain't gonna work with a center detented knob. And so that was one of the questions that I've had. Is there a way to be able to scale so that I can scale so that 50% would give me my boost, and then that would give me my full cut? Is there such a thing? Like, is there a way to be able to do that? Because if I jump back over here, and if you have a look at my channel EQ, it's not going to be mapped. It doesn't do like a full cut, but the thing is that the EQs are set equally to a drop and a gain. So keen to know, is there more of a DJ style EQ3, or is there a way to be able to kind of set this up? Because the problem with the channel EQ is when I'm dropping the high, mids and lows is I don't have a full cut. There's still quite a bit of signal that kind of comes through. So anyway, that's that. The other thing that I've got going on here is, and I think it's a little bit different. Let me just check something, because I think I changed a couple of things. Oh, don't save. Don't save. Opening. Oh, spinning wheel. Oh no, there we go. Let's have a look. Drums. Yeah, anyway, no, it's still there. Okay, so I did a search. I'll try and find the links, and I'll put these in here to be able to build like a DJ filter. So the idea of a single knob being able to kick in and do either a high pass or low pass. And this is done with some really cool Ableton trickery, which I have had fun learning. Being able to do chains and being able to kind of crossfade between. So at this point, both the low pass filter and the high pass filter are actually off. And then as you start to change the DJ filter, or the single knob, it turns on, fades on the low pass, fades up the high pass, and moves through. And so then being able to use this guy here does that, because this knob is also center detented, so it kind of locks in at that point. So high pass, low pass. And I guess if I bring up something on the modular, let's have a listen. Oh, hey, here's a trick. Let's turn this on. When you get one of these, to be able to activate this as a MIDI control, you hold this big button here, and then you press this, and it goes into MIDI mode, and now that'll work. Low pass with a bit of resonance, high pass with a bit of resonance, all the way to nothing. And then yes, so low frequency boost on the channel EQ, mids, highs. And again, if I cut all of these, you'll see that it does drop the volume significantly, but there's still sound coming through. So yeah, looking for a better solution for this. Let's just go back and move that just a bit quieter. Okay, cool. Yeah, right, so let's hide the chain. So what's been fun for me is, like, I have been using Live since version 2, but there's a lot of stuff that, because I'm kind of always outside of the box, and using hardware, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've kind of missed. And so it's been really fun going back through and learning how deep and crazy this is, because I want to just kind of show you a couple of other things I've got on each of these channels. Is I've got a one button glitch little effect. So this idea of what's something that I can kind of have that I can kind of turn on and it'll just kind of destroy the sound kind of instantly. So we'll have a look at that in a second. And so building that kind of idea, and also, and this is like a femto thing as well, is being able to have devices switched off when you're not using them. And I think having the push, you do have to think quite a bit about its processing power and kind of how many things are going on. And I've had a few kind of challenges with that because I just keep on adding effects to things. So being able to kind of make this so that it's, you know, everything's off, and then it, you know, when it's momentarily on, everything's doing the glitchy glitch, and then you know, it's off again. And then that same kind of idea here in the DJ filter, where I clicked the wrong button, where you can see that the effects are actually off when they're in the center, and then they only come on when you start pulling them one way or the other. So if I click this, you can see then it activates. So it's not like, so you don't have all these devices that are just kind of sitting there in the background when you're not using them, taking up CPU. All right, okay, there's one other thing on here. And that's been making these one knob effects. There's this whole kind of, there's this thing out there which I didn't know about, which is really kind of awesome, this idea of making one knob effects and pulling everything in. Again, everything's kind of turned off when you're not doing anything, and then as soon as you kind of engage, everything comes on and you can do these kind of one knob effects. So we'll have a listen to that. So I've got, because when we're talking about this guy, it's like DJ filter, high pass, low pass, EQ, and then this gain knob is also MIDI mappable, so you can assign whatever you want. So I've got this assigned to a one knob effect, same over here. And these are the buttons that I've got for the one button glitch kind of effect. And then this here is also on the main channel, got a one button absolute destroyer of, sorry, a one knob absolute destroyer effect. And yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, like solos, mutes, also mapped into here. Yeah, so that's the basic kind of setup. So again, this idea of two groups, because the other thing that was a bit of a thing for me was thinking about on the push, making sure that I can see all of my tracks at every point, or being able to easily access a track. And I found myself kind of going, oh, I can only have 8 tracks at a time, because I didn't want to have to kind of navigate left and right to be able to kind of get to whatever else is going on anywhere else. But I don't have to now, because I can just press this and it just kind of puts it away. I don't know what's going on with this channel. It's doing something really kooky and weird. It just kind of folds it up and then I can see stuff. Because the other thing that I've got going on my push is there's no built-in CPU meter. And I really need to get an eye on what I'm doing for CPU. So there's a little Max for Live device that you can add to a channel, and it pins it to the top, which is kind of really nice. It's just like CPU meter, and it's taking whatever the CPU's in here. It's like, you know, it jumps around all over the place, as you can see. So there's no kind of sort of scaling or whatever's going on, or smoothing of the value, but at least kind of gives a good idea of, you know, what your CPU is doing. Apologies for the camera. This is the iPhone just doing stuff, and it's just, yeah, not the best kind of camera. But anyway, I hope you'll forgive me. So this works because I've got these two channel groups. If I'm adding an extra input, or if I'm, you know, not using stereo inputs, I'm using a whole bunch of monos, I can just keep adding extra channels or extra tracks into this group, and knowing that I've still got this one main group that's got all of the controls here that I can work with on the fly in a live situation, and everything's kind of being fed through and working really well. So I think that was it. That's the breakdown of how these are working, and I'm digging it. This seems to be kind of working really, really well. So some questions for you. We'll get over to the modular and we'll look at the routing and we'll listen to how all this is going, but I just wanted to give you that framework. But really, really interested to know, and chuck it in the comments, is there a kind of a better or DJ channel? Like, you know, something that kind of replicates something that's like on a Pioneer mixer or something that's got the EQs and low pass, high pass, or, you know, is what I've got. So yeah, if you know, do tell me. I don't think these two are MIDI mappable, just so you know, because the Z1 Mark II is also an interface. It's got some funky RCAs up the back here. These guys aren't MIDI mappable because this is the volume of the audio interface, and this is the volume of the headphone mix as well. But everything else, all these other buttons are MIDI mappable. Just so you know. I don't know about the headphone ones, but yeah, all of these guys are MIDI mappable. These guys are MIDI mappable. So let's maybe have a bit of a listen to what's happening. Again, because the modular, I don't have, has that gone out of focus? No, it seems to be all right. I don't have any drums in here. Everything's kind of tonal madness, macro oscillator stuff, with a couple of sort of effects. So no drums. So all the drums are over in here. So let's have a look and see what I've got. So yes, I've got a kick. The other thing that I did do was I took inspiration from Audio React, where he's made kind of a couple of rumble chains, and I made my own little rumble chain. And that's been the other kind of fun thing about working on the desktop and building components for Push, is to be able to do something like a little rumble effect. I can't do chains on Push, I don't think. Maybe I can. Again, correct me in the comments. But being able to, let's see. Oh, I know what I can do. If I go into good old user library, and let's go here. I don't think I have it on here at the moment. Maybe I might still have the Audio React one. Yeah, I do. So there's his kick verb. So this will demonstrate it just as well. So the idea is actually just kind of making chains. So you've got the dry signal of the kick that's coming through, and then you make the rumble. And so inside the rumble, there's a whole bunch of different effects. There's another kind of effect chain with a whole bunch of macros mapped. through here. I think I broke his one because you can see that one's like macro 1 because I made my own. Let's go over here and chuck it in and have a look. Right, where is it? Here. So yeah, I mean, just different style of effects, and I didn't map as many things as what he did in there. But yes, so got a reverb in there, an overdrive, delay, and that's kind of it. And that was kind of working. Oh, and I think there's a compressor here, hidden in there somewhere. Oh yeah, I stole his sidechain. And instead of using the shaper again, it's actually sort of ducking through a different input, and there's an EQ for some kind of filtering options and a limiter at the end of the chain. So let's have a listen. Right. So verb control, overdrive, delay, time, let's leave that back where that was. The amount of sidechain that's in there, I can low pass and high pass filter this. So let's overdrive. Some reverb. What was I going to do? Yep, just do this. Just going to mute that guy for a second. Groovy. So yeah, so that's been fun because what was I doing before? I was like setting up a separate channel, routing the audio of the kick into the channel, putting a compressor on that, building the effects, all that kind of stuff. Now I've built a rumble that just kind of works, has kind of all the vibe that I'm looking for at my kind of ridiculously low tempos, whatever I'm working at, 47 BPM. And then, yeah, kind of building that out. It does work if you do like the 4 on the floor thing. And if you change the delay time. this whole idea of, you know, having these going on, building that, this is what is kind of really exciting me about Push at the moment, and just building these little kind of components. I need this, okay, let's put that together, and then, you know, drop that in there. And the idea that all of these things can just kind of come across, you know, into your user library, and, you know, there it is. So I can just kind of, I can build build a new track from scratch, and, you know, just go with it. So that's really fun. Yeah. Other things. I've got just a couple of sort of sampled snares, smearing them out. I have found, like, part of the thing that I've been doing in here is going from track building to actual sound design. So going over and sort of building snares, building kick drums, that kind of thing, and then resampling it. So, you know, like here, there's my kick, and so building all those things and then resampling that into a new track, loading that sample up, and then isolating different parts of that sample. And so it's the same with the kick. Yeah, all of these. So kind of, you know, designing a space in the drum rack, going nuts with all of the different effects, and then resampling that. Cool. Good. Oh, the last thing that I've got is like a sample and using a drum sampler. So part of why I love the Ableton Move so much is when you create a drum rack, each of the sounds automatically get loaded into the drum sampler. And one of the effects that I absolutely adore on the drum sampler is the stretch effect, which gives this kind of crazy sort of granular feel to anything that you play with it. So I know it's kind of meant more for kind of beat matching, but it's just like a little mini kind of granular effect that I absolutely adore and love. And so, yeah, that idea is, let's just, using the XY pad. Yeah, lots of fun. So yes, this was a bit of a revelation, and I was on the Discord and I was like, oh, because I'd been able to load the drum sampler because I knew this effect was in here, but I didn't know how to actually load a sample into it. And so there's this idea of you click the little reload, and here you can actually choose between the device and the samples. So if you hit this, it'll actually jump up and load. You can just kind of change the sample in there.
Realize that realize.
Do it. And so now I can I? Really? I don't know what's happening now. So yes, that was really awesome to be able to work that out and load things in like that. Oh, that's why, because I've got the volume down.
Listen as the
So much fun.
The exercise.
Cool. Yes, so that's that. That's the source. Let's talk Modular Land and see what's kind of happening over there. Oh, the other quick thing that I should just do is while we're still here, and I've got a little something. Let's try that one knob thing. So here's the one knob effect. It's just like this kind of big, smeary reverb. And low pass filter. And I should also just show you this, because this is just glorious. If there's a way. I think there is. It's always a way. I'm just plugging my phone in. Sorry for the... I'll try and edit it out, but I'll probably forget. Cable just fits. Turn it on. Yep. Boop. Cool. Yeah, okay, so that's that. So let's talk synths. So just really quickly, I've got that kind of other same sort of layout, channel EQ, DJ filter, a one button glitch, compressor, and a one knob. Not happy with this one knob. We'll have a listen to it anyway, but I'm gonna rebuild that. That's my next kind of job, just to kind of rebuild that one. Yeah, so I've just got three things going on, and we'll talk about what each of these are. Most are very, very simple, where I've got a CV instrument that enables me to send pitch and gate information. I'll have, so CV instruments seem to be able to do mono input. So if I come into here and I go monitoring, it enables me to be able to kind of choose just a single input to be able to route the audio in. So that's the only kind of thing that you can do in that. So if you have, so see with the audio input 1, 2, and then it's just got the separate ADATs, right? But if you have a stereo input, which is what I do have for the Atom channel, I need to put in an external audio effect. And then when I've got my audio from, this is where I can then start to choose like either pairs. And it's got this kind of weird numbering system where it starts off at 1, 2, and then there's, because the pedal inputs, expression inputs, the main inputs and outputs, all of those things take up all of the other channels. So the ADAT actually picks up at 9, 10. So when we jump over and we look at that, yep, I had it right, there we go. Hello? Ah, there. So when we jump over and look at that, when we've got a kind of a pair, stereo pair in here, so 1, 2 is actually 9, 10, that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. as it goes. And then it's the same with the outputs on the bottom here. So here where I've got 11, 12, that's actually talking about 3 and 4 inputs. Yeah, so CV instrument works if it's mono. So for example, if I jump over to Manis, where I've got Sting 2 going on and the CV instrument coming in here, Manis is simply mono. And so when I have, gate routing, where I have the input, I can just route it directly from ADAT 6. And so the Manis is just coming in from there. So yeah, that's how that works. So I don't need to add an external audio effect to be able to bring the audio in. So yes, took a bit to work it out. And again, if I'm doing it wrong, please put it into the comments. That would be very, very cool, because I'm all for learning. So a bit of filter delay going on in here. The next, where I've got a bean jelly and scanned coming in. Yeah, I've got external audio effect because again it's coming in as stereo. I've got a filter delay on there and an EQ8 just to kind of tame some frequencies that were kind of bugging me in there and bring some of that kind of low end up. And then I've got Manis happening, and I've got a QPAS on that, and that sounds really cool. And so maybe we should actually start with that. Let's just not have that going, and let's start with Manis. So what you're hearing here is Manis. So got Sting 2. You know, you can do kind of push takeover and it's in there, but it's just doing this little kind of clicky thing. And if I jump over to here, one of the things that I'm loving about Manis Iteritas is the envelope and being able to go, you know, short kind of clicky stuff to longer. And yeah, got some modulation going on in here, and simply just the idea, and I don't know if you can see the little light just kind of triggering down here, that's sending the gate information, and that's coming from Sting. And so with Sting you can do things like the clock, where you've got the clock division. Let's have a quick look. Got the clock division, and so, you know, you can slow. So nice. And then the other idea of just with the little octave switch in here. So performative, just really love it. And it was always a bit of a love-hate thing with the Manis. Sometimes I just couldn't get the sounds out of it that I wanted to, but now I think I know it more. So yeah, I've just been having Manis running as just kind of like a low pulse. being able to change the envelope level. And I've got the low pass filter being modulated with some sloths. I did another video where I talked about sloths, and like this is just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Just for that kind of breathing, turning your modular into like a living, breathing kind of craziness. I do feel like some of this is a bit out of focus. Let me just see if what I can do here. Like the atom is out of focus. Let me just. I think that's better. Okay, cool. And I've got this crazy bad light up here that's, yeah, I haven't got to the fancy lighting setup yet. So yeah, that's one little voice that's kind of having fun in there. And yeah, working with Sting, having that's been very fun. More to learn with that, but just in terms of putting something on there and, you know, sending out a signal and being able to change the number of steps and stuff, like all very, very cool. Let's just stop that for a moment because I think everything else is kind of really drony stuff. That's the main kind of thing that's going on. So let's jump over and have a quick look. 51 minutes. Yes, see, I told you it was going to be ridiculously long, and so thanks if you're hanging out and you're still kind of going, but let's do this pretty quickly, and maybe we just kind of start off with Atom. So a couple of videos ago I was doing this thing about the idea of letting Atom just drone on and using its resonator to do stuff and feeding things in. And so what I've got going on is I've got Plaits coming up. I've got one input going into the exciter in and one going into the res in. I've got the joystick here. So Plaits is coming into the QPAS as stereo, and then I've got the low pass coming into both of these, and so that gives me the opportunity on the x-axis here to be able to filter the QPAS going in. So I could kind of change the amount of frequencies that's going into there. And then the other thing that I've got on the joystick here is on the y-axis, that's changing the brightness. So I don't know if you can see my little red-green going on here. And it gives me those kind of really interesting sort of feedback tones, which is a lot of fun. And then the last thing that I've got going on is I've got the press point that when I turn this on, it's actually opening up the resonator, so it's triggering it, because press point's got this cool little function where it's like it's an on-off switch. So not only has got a kind of a gate trigger that comes out and some pressure stuff, but it's also got this little switch that means I can kind of turn things on and off, which is great. And I've also got that triggering the scanned as well. So when I hit that, that does that, but we'll get to that in a moment. So let's have a quick listen to this. I need to bring up the input level for the QPAS, because if I don't do that, it's the res in is kind of always live. So it doesn't matter even if I've got the filter shut, there's still a bit of signal that's kind of coming through from the QPAS. And so if I start to open that up, and so this is going in, and it's open up the brightness, and we get this kind of crazy feedback tones. And the other thing that I like doing is just bringing the blow volume in and changing the timbre on it. Yeah, so that's one for spacey texture kind of weirdness. And then the last thing that I've got going on is a bit of a love-hate thing going on with the Iroi, but I've got two inputs. I've got one from the scanned and I've got one from the Benjolin coming in, and there's a bit of a sequence playing from that. So I've just got the low filter shut so that if I open this up, you'll be able to hear the scanned going on. You'll be able to hear the Benjolin. And then I can start to bring kind of in the resonator with the Iroi, the echo, the ambience. And then maybe we should bring it all together. Thanks for playing today. Like, subscribe. This is the bit where I kind of, have my soul-searching little bit just as I'm trying to kind of wrap up. It's funny, making these videos and putting yourself out in this medium because, sometimes it's like, have I got anything to say? Like, am I adding anything to the fabric of humanity? Especially in these kind of crazy times that we live in. But, I get the occasional comment that just goes, hey, thanks very much for this. And I'm going, okay, well, that's cool. If there's one person out there that kind of digs this weirdness, then that's great. That's very, very cool. So yeah, if you like it, do like it. Drop a comment. Let's have a chat. Thanks very much for hanging out. See you soon.